Nothing is impossible. Learn English at your own pace. Segment 1. Nothing is impossible when you learn at your own pace. Many people want to learn English, but many people feel slow. They listen to others speaking fluently. They watch videos online. They see fast progress everywhere, and quietly, they feel behind. They do not say it loudly, but inside, a small voice speaks. Maybe English is not for me. Maybe I am too slow. Maybe I started too late. This feeling is very common, and it is very human, but it is not the truth. The truth is simple. Nothing is impossible. You just need the right pace. Most people do not fail at learning English because they are weak. They fail because they try to learn too fast. They rush lessons. They try to remember everything at once. They compare their journey with others. And slowly, learning becomes heavy. English starts to feel like pressure, not a language. This story is about choosing a different way, a calmer way, a kinder way. There was a learner who felt tired. Not tired of English, but tired of rushing. Every time this learner listened to English, they tried very hard to understand everything. If they missed one word, they felt uncomfortable. If they missed one sentence, they felt disappointed. Learning felt like a test. The learner believed something quietly. If I do not push myself, I will never improve. So they pushed. But the more they pushed, the more tired they became. One quiet evening, after a long day, the learner stopped. They did not quit, they just paused. They sat down quietly. They played a simple English audio. And for the first time, they made a new decision. I will not rush. I will not force. I will just listen. At first, it felt strange. The mind wanted speed. The mind wanted results. It asked questions. Am I learning? Is this working? Is this too slow? But the learner stayed calm. They listened without pausing. They did not repeat aloud. They did not take notes. They only listened. 5 minutes passed. Then they stopped. Something felt different. They were not tired. The next day, they listened again. Only 5 minutes, at the same slow pace. No pressure, no expectations. After a few days, something small changed. English started to sound familiar. Not clear, not perfect, but familiar. The learner realized something important. Learning is not about understanding everything today. Learning is about staying connected. When you learn at your own pace, your mind feels safe. When your mind feels safe, it opens. Fear becomes smaller. Mistakes feel normal. The learner stopped asking, how fast can I learn English? They started asking, how calm do I feel while learning? This one question changed everything. English slowly became part of daily life, like soft music in the background, always there, never heavy. Some days felt good, some days felt slow, but the learner did not quit, because learning no longer hurt. And slowly, confidence began to grow. Not loudly, not suddenly, quietly. If you are listening to this story right now, remember this. You are allowed to learn slowly. You are allowed to take your time. Progress does not disappear because you move slowly. Progress disappears when you stop. So, breathe. Listen calmly. Nothing is impossible when you learn English at your own pace. Segment 2. Learning grows when pressure leaves. After the learner chose to slow down, something important began to change. Not quickly, not loudly, but gently. At first, the learner did not feel smarter. They did not feel fluent. They did not feel confident. But they felt one new thing: relief. For the first time, English did not feel like a race. There was no clock, no target, no one to impress, just listening. The learner noticed how pressure had quietly controlled everything before. Pressure to understand every word, pressure to remember everything, pressure to improve faster than yesterday. That pressure never helped. It only made learning heavy. Now, without pressure, the learner listened differently. They listened with curiosity, not fear. When they did not understand a sentence, they did not panic. They told themselves, "It is okay. I will hear it again one day." This small sentence changed the mind. Instead of stopping, the learner continued, and continuation is powerful. Every day, the learner listened a little. Some days were quiet. Some days were busy. But even on busy days, they listened for a few minutes. No rules, no perfect routine, just presence. Slowly, English sounds became familiar. Certain words appeared again and again. Certain sentence patterns felt known. The learner did not memorize them, they recognized them. Recognition came before memory. This is how the brain likes to learn. Without stress, the brain connects naturally. The learner realized something else too. When learning felt calm, time felt different. 5 minutes felt enough. 10 minutes felt comfortable. There was no need to push. Before, the learner believed long study hours meant progress. Now, they saw something new. Consistency mattered more than intensity. Short, calm listening every day was stronger than long, stressful study once a week. English slowly became a safe space, a place where mistakes were allowed, a place where silence was okay. The learner stopped judging themselves. They stopped saying, "I should be better by now." They started saying, "I am learning." This sentence felt lighter. One evening, something surprising happened. The learner understood a sentence without translating it. Not perfectly, but naturally. It was a small moment, but it felt big, because it proved something. The slow way was working. The learner smiled quietly, not because they were fluent, but because they trusted the process. Trust is important. Without trust, learning becomes a fight. With trust, learning becomes a journey. The learner also noticed another change. They were less afraid of English. Before, English felt like a test waiting to fail them. Now, it felt like a language waiting to be heard. This difference mattered. Fear had blocked progress before. Calm allowed it to flow. The learner still forgot words. They still missed meanings, but forgetting did not hurt anymore. It felt normal, because forgetting is part of learning. The learner learned to let words come and go. They learned not to hold English too tightly. And because of that, English stayed. If you are listening to this story, this part is for you. You do not need to control learning. You do not need to force progress. Your only job is to stay connected. Listen calmly. Return again tomorrow. That is enough. Nothing grows under pressure. Everything grows with patience. Learning English is no different. When pressure leaves, learning stays. And when learning stays, nothing feels impossible. Segment 3. Confidence grows quietly when you stay. As the learner continued this calm way of learning, another change slowly appeared. Confidence. Not loud confidence, not the kind that shows off. Quiet confidence. The learner did not suddenly speak English fluently. They did not suddenly understand everything. But something inside felt different. Before, English created tension. Now, English created curiosity. This change was important. The learner noticed that confidence did not come from speaking. It came from familiarity. Hearing English every day, even for a few minutes, made the language feel normal. And when something feels normal, fear loses its power. Before, when the learner heard English, the mind reacted quickly. What does this mean? Why don't I understand? I am slow. These thoughts created noise. Now, those thoughts became softer. Sometimes they did not appear at all. The learner learned something valuable. Confidence does not come from knowing everything. Confidence comes from staying. Staying when learning feels easy. Staying when learning feels boring. Staying when learning feels slow. Many people leave too early. They leave because they think progress should be fast. They leave because they think struggle means failure. But struggle is not failure. Leaving is. The learner understood this quietly. One day, while listening to a familiar English audio, something simple happened. The learner predicted the next word. Not on purpose, not by thinking. It just happened. This small moment felt special because it showed something real. The brain was learning. Slowly, naturally. The learner did not celebrate loudly. They did not rush to do more. They stayed calm. They trusted the pace. Another important change happened too. The learner stopped feeling guilty. Before, missing a day felt like failure. Now, missing a day felt human. The learner returned the next day without punishment. This kindness made learning lighter. English was no longer connected to shame. It was connected to patience. The learner also noticed that silence was no longer scary. Before, silence meant, I don't know. Now, silence meant, I am listening. This shift was powerful. When you are not afraid of silence, you give your mind space. And space helps understanding grow. The learner still did not speak much, and that was okay. Speaking would come later. Listening was building the foundation. Strong foundations are quiet, but they last. One evening, the learner thought about the past, about how many times they almost quit, about how many times they felt impossible, and they realized something important. English was never impossible. The pressure made it feel impossible. Without pressure, learning felt possible again. Not fast, not easy, but possible. The learner smiled softly, not because the journey was finished, but because it felt safe. If you are listening to this story now, this message is for you. You do not need to feel confident today. You do not need to speak perfectly. You only need to stay. Stay with the language. Stay with the sound. Stay with the process. Confidence will not arrive loudly. It will arrive quietly. One day, you will notice it. In the way English feels familiar. In the way fear feels smaller. In the way you stop asking, can I do this? And start believing nothing is impossible. As long as you stay. Segment 4. Progress happens when you stop forcing. As days passed, the learner noticed another quiet change. Progress no longer felt like something to chase. It felt like something that appeared naturally. Before, the learner always tried to control learning. They planned too much. They worried too much. How much did I learn today? Am I improving fast enough? Why am I still slow? These questions never brought peace. They only created tension. Now, the learner asked fewer questions. They listened. They stayed. They allowed learning to happen. This made a difference. One important lesson became clear. Forcing learning pushes it away. Allowing learning brings it closer. The learner remembered how stressful learning used to feel. Long study sessions, heavy notebooks, too many rules. After those sessions, the learner felt exhausted. But now, learning felt lighter. 5 or 10 minutes calm felt better than one stressful hour. The learner understood something deeply. Learning does not grow under pressure. Learning grows under patience. Every time the learner forced understanding, the mind resisted. Every time the learner relaxed, the mind opened. This pattern repeated again and again. Slow listening created comfort. Comfort created attention. Attention created understanding. No force was needed. The learner also stopped waiting for motivation. Before, motivation decided everything. If I feel motivated, I will learn. If I feel tired, I will stop. But motivation was unstable. Now the learner relied on something stronger. Habit. A small, gentle habit. Listening calmly each day, even when motivation was low, even when progress was invisible. This habit became a quiet anchor. English became part of daily life, not a special task. Sometimes the learner listened while resting, sometimes while walking slowly, sometimes before sleep. English blended into life naturally. Another fear slowly disappeared, the fear of wasting time. Before, the learner worried that slow learning meant wasted time. Now they saw the truth. Rushed learning wastes more time than slow learning. Rushed learning leads to burnout. Slow learning leads to consistency. Consistency always wins. One afternoon, the learner noticed something subtle. They understood the feeling of a sentence even if they missed some words. They did not panic. They did not stop. They stayed with the sound. This was progress. Not perfect understanding, but meaningful connection. The learner smiled quietly again, because learning no longer felt fragile. It felt steady, like walking on solid ground. The learner also accepted another truth. Some days would feel empty. Some days would feel slow. And that was okay. Learning does not move in a straight line. It moves like waves, sometimes forward, sometimes still, but always alive. The learner stopped judging slow days. They stopped calling them failures. They called them part of the journey. This kindness changed everything. When learning feels safe, the mind stays. When the mind stays, progress continues. If you are listening to this story now, this message is for you. You do not need to force learning. You do not need to push yourself every day. You only need to return. Return calmly. Return gently. Even small steps matter. Progress is not loud. It does not announce itself. It grows quietly when you stop forcing it. Nothing is impossible when you allow yourself to learn at your own pace. Segment 5. Staying consistent without burnout. As the learner continued this gentle way of learning, one more challenge appeared. Consistency. Not the hard kind, not strict schedules or long plans, but the quiet question, How do I keep going without feeling tired again? Before, consistency meant pressure. It meant forcing study every day, even when the mind was exhausted. That kind of consistency never lasted. It always ended in burnout. This time was different. The learner understood something important. Consistency does not mean doing a lot. Consistency means returning calmly. The learner stopped setting big goals. No daily word targets, no strict study hours. Instead, they chose something simple. I will listen a little even on busy days. Some days it was 10 minutes, some days it was 5. Some days it was only a few sentences. But the learner did not judge those days. They counted them all as success. This mindset changed everything. Learning stopped feeling like responsibility. It started feeling like routine, like brushing teeth, like drinking water, something natural. The learner also learned to forgive themselves. Before, missing a day meant failure. It created guilt. Guilt made returning harder. Now, missing a day meant rest. And after rest, the learner returned gently. No punishment, no negative thoughts. This kindness protected motivation. Another quiet habit appeared. The learner chose the same type of English often. Same calm speed, same simple language. This repetition was not boring, it was comforting. Hearing familiar sounds made the mind relax faster, and relaxed minds learn better. The learner noticed something else. Burnout comes from resistance. When you fight learning, it drains energy. When you allow learning, it gives energy. This was surprising. English used to take energy. Now it gave calm. Listening became a peaceful moment in the day, a pause from noise, a break from thinking. Because of this, the learner did not feel the need to quit. There was nothing to escape from. Learning did not hurt anymore. Progress continued quietly. Some weeks felt slow, some weeks felt clearer, but consistency stayed. Not because of discipline, but because of comfort. One evening, the learner reflected. They were still not fluent, they still made mistakes, but they had something stronger. Trust. Trust in the process. Trust in slow growth. Trust that learning does not disappear when it is gentle. If you are listening to this story, this message is for you. You do not need perfect consistency. You need kind consistency. Return when you can. Listen when you have space. Do not rush to catch up. There is nothing to chase. English will wait for you. Learning does not punish you for resting. It welcomes you back. When you stay consistent without pressure, burnout has no place. And when burnout disappears, learning continues naturally. Nothing is impossible when you keep going in a way that feels peaceful. Segment 6. Learning to trust yourself again. As the learner stayed consistent in this gentle way, something deeper began to heal. Trust. Not trust in English, but trust in themselves. Before, the learner doubted everything. Every slow day felt like failure. Every forgotten word felt like proof. Proof that they were not good enough. Proof that learning was not working. This doubt was heavy. It followed the learner every time they opened a lesson. It whispered quietly, "You are too slow." But now, something had changed. The learner was no longer fighting English. They were listening calmly. And because of that, they started trusting the process. Trust is not loud. It grows quietly, like roots. The learner noticed they no longer panicked when they did not understand something. Before, confusion felt dangerous. Now, confusion felt normal. "I don't understand yet" felt very different from "I will never understand." This small change was powerful. The learner learned to sit with uncertainty, to listen even when meaning was not clear, to stay even when progress was invisible. This is how real learning grows, not from control, but from patience. One day, the learner realized something surprising. They were no longer afraid of English. The language was still challenging, but it was not scary. Fear had slowly disappeared, not because English became easy, but because the learner stopped judging themselves. Judgment creates fear. Acceptance creates space. In that space, confidence quietly appeared. The learner also noticed a new habit. When they heard English, they listened to the feeling first, the tone, the rhythm, the emotion, not every word. This made listening easier. Understanding started to come naturally without effort. The learner trusted their brain again. They trusted that learning was happening even when they could not see it. This trust removed tension, and without tension, learning flowed better. Another important realization came. The learner understood that progress does not look the same for everyone. Some people speak early, some people listen longer. Neither way is wrong. There is no correct timeline. The learner stopped comparing their journey. Comparison had stolen joy before. Now, peace protected it. With trust, the learner felt lighter. English was no longer something to prove, it was something to explore. Curiosity replaced pressure, and curiosity always leads to growth. If you are listening to this story, this part is for you. You do not need to doubt yourself. You do not need proof every day. Learning works when you stay kind to yourself. You are not slow, you are learning deeply. Deep learning takes time, and time is not your enemy. Time is your partner. When you trust yourself, learning feels safe. When learning feels safe, nothing feels impossible. Stay calm, stay patient, and trust that you are moving forward, even when the steps are quiet. Segment 7. Letting the language become part of life. As trust slowly returned, the learner noticed something gentle. English was no longer a separate task. It was no longer something that waited on a desk or inside a book. English was slowly becoming part of life. Not in a loud way, not in a demanding way, in a quiet way. Before, learning English required preparation, time, energy, mental effort. Now, English appeared naturally, in short moments, between daily activities, during calm pauses. The learner listened while resting, sometimes while walking slowly, sometimes while sitting quietly at night. English did not interrupt life anymore. It flowed with it. This change felt important. When learning fits into life, it stays longer. The learner realized something else, too. They were no longer waiting for the perfect time to learn. Before, they waited for free hours, for strong motivation, for the right mood. Those moments rarely came. Now, learning happened in imperfect moments, tired moments, quiet moments, ordinary moments. And surprisingly, those moments worked best. The learner did not try to focus too hard. They did not force attention. They listened gently, and because of that, attention appeared naturally. The learner also noticed how English started to feel familiar emotionally. Not just the words, but the feeling of the language. The rhythm felt known. The sound felt friendly. This emotional familiarity mattered more than vocabulary. It made listening comfortable, and comfort allowed learning to continue. Some days the learner understood more. Some days they understood less. But this no longer caused worry. Understanding was no longer the goal. connection was. Staying connected to the language kept the door open. The learners stopped measuring progress daily. No more counting days, no more checking levels. Instead, they noticed small signs. English sounded less foreign. Fear felt smaller. Silence felt peaceful. These signs were quiet, but they were real. One day, the learner realized something unexpected. They were no longer asking, "Can I learn English?" That question had disappeared. In its place was something softer. "I am learning." No pressure, no doubt, just a simple truth. The learner also understood that learning did not need excitement every day. Some days were calm, some days were boring, and boredom was not a problem. Boredom meant familiarity. Familiarity meant growth. When something becomes familiar, it becomes part of you. The learner allowed English to be ordinary, not special, not scary, just another sound in daily life. This made learning sustainable. The learner did not feel the urge to quit anymore. There was nothing to escape from. Learning was gentle. Learning was safe. If you are listening to this story, this message is for you. You do not need to organize your whole life around learning English. You only need to let English enter your life quietly, in small moments, in calm moments. You do not need to feel excited every day. You do not need to feel strong every day. You only need to stay connected. Let the language walk beside you, not in front of you, not behind you, beside you. When learning becomes part of life, it no longer feels heavy. And when learning feels light, nothing feels impossible. Stay calm. Stay present. You are closer than you think.
Segment 8. Nothing is impossible. When you keep going. Calmly. As the journey continued, the learner finally understood something clearly. Nothing had changed suddenly. There was no big moment, no loud success, but everything had changed quietly. English no longer felt like a problem to solve. It felt like a path to walk, slowly, patiently. At the beginning of this journey, the learner believed progress should be visible. They believed learning meant fast results, clear signs, strong confidence, but now they knew better. Real progress is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not rush forward. It grows slowly when you stay. The learner looked back and noticed small changes. English felt less heavy, listening felt less tiring, fear felt smaller. These changes were gentle, but they mattered more than speed. The learner also understood that learning is not about reaching a finish line. There is no final moment where English is done. Learning is a relationship. Some days you feel close, some days you feel distant, but when you stay kind, the relationship grows stronger. Before, the learner believed mistakes meant failure. Now mistakes felt natural. They were no longer signs to stop. They were signs of movement. Silence also felt different. Before, silence meant weakness. Now silence meant listening, and listening is powerful. The learner realized something important. Nothing feels impossible when you stop fighting yourself. English was never the enemy. Time was never the enemy. The real enemy was pressure. Once pressure disappeared, learning felt possible again. Not easy, but possible. The learner no longer asked, "How fast can I improve?" They asked, "How gently can I continue?" This question changed everything. Gentle learning lasts. The learner also accepted that progress is not always visible. Some days nothing feels new. Some days learning feels slow. But even on those days, something is happening inside. The brain is listening. The mind is adjusting. Understanding is preparing. Growth does not need your attention to happen. It needs your presence. The learner stayed present. They returned again and again, not because they were strong, but because learning felt safe, and safety is powerful. If you're listening to this story now, this final message is for you. You do not need to rush your learning. You do not need to prove anything. You only need to stay connected. Listen calmly. Return gently. Even when progress feels invisible, it is still real. Nothing becomes impossible because you move slowly. Things become impossible only when you stop completely. So keep going, not with pressure, not with fear, but with patience. Let English walk beside you. Let learning be part of your life. You are not late. You are not behind. You are learning in your own way. And that is enough. Take a deep breath. Trust yourself. Nothing is impossible when you keep going calmly. Subscribe now. Join the peaceful English stories and let's start your English learning journey together.